The Pandorica's time has come. And the same goes for the Doctor and his companions. But first, a quick side quest. It seems there's something wrong with the TARDIS. Because, first off, it lands in the wrong spot. And second, it kicks the Doctor out and takes off with Amy. Out of control. And the Doctor can't figure out why. Meanwhile, on some flat nearby, someone or something is coercing people into the upstairs apartment, and they never come back out. And we also meet best friends Craig and Sophie, who clearly sort of have feelings for each other that are deeper than friendship, but neither of them is brave enough to say the words. Meanwhile, the Doctor has taken advantage of a plan Craig has to get a roommate by answering an ad that Craig hasn't quite placed yet. He brings a sack full of cash and sets himself up. Also, he warns Craig that some dry rot that he notices in the living room of the downstairs flat is probably not something anyone should touch. So, the Doctor ingratiates himself into Craig's life. He mentions stuff out of sync with normal time. He seemingly talks gibberish when really he's talking with Amy over a scrambled communicator. And he seems to do better at Craig's life than Craig actually does. He plays soccer with Craig's friends and does better than Craig. He convinces Sophie to follow her dreams of taking care of orangutans. And when Craig touches the dry rot and gets sick, after the Doctor gives him a healing draft, he fills in for Craig at work, even implementing some of Craig's ideas that he was too chicken to mention to his boss. And so, Craig, having gotten fed up with the Doctor's, shall we say, quirks, he asks him to leave, but the Doctor can't. Because every time the TARDIS tries to land and fails, it causes time itself to start skipping and repeating like a record that's jumped a track. And the Doctor has cobbled together some non-technological technology in order to find out the source. And he even asks a cat what it has seen. And the results aren't good. People that seem to be either in a hurry to be somewhere or are distressed end up getting called upstairs by various individuals who you can't really get a good look at. And they never come down. So, after Craig gets over his brief sickness from touching the rot, the Doctor finally comes clean with what's going on. And he uses a psychic headbutt. Yeah, he slams his head into Craig's head, and the both of them get a headache with pictures. And Craig is surprisingly quick on the uptake. He comes to terms with all that information pretty quickly, even if he does babble a bit. Yeah, it's funny. When the doctor gave Madame de Pompadour information about himself, he used sort of a mind meld. But this doctor uses a headbutt. So you can see how different their personalities are. Eventually they make their way upstairs, with Craig earlier being told he's not necessary up there. But when Sophie gets pulled upstairs, it's up to the doctor and Craig to save her. Because as it turns out, someone has cobbled together a kind of TARDIS, and it looks like something the Master or the Ronnie would pilot. And it's been literally burning up humans trying to get a pilot because the original crew are dead. They died upon impact when it crashed. Sophie nearly gets burned up, but thankfully it lets her go and calls the doctor forward, sensing that he is the proper pilot for it. Unfortunately, if he touches the console, it will blow up and take out the whole solar system. So Craig, realizing there's a risk, puts his hand on the console and short-circuits the whole thing because, unlike everyone else, Craig doesn't want to go anywhere. That's the common denominator with everyone else. Everyone else wanted to leave, but Craig, he didn't want to leave. And finally he admits why. Because he's in love with Sophie and he doesn't want to leave her. And upon realizing Craig's true feelings, Sophie reciprocates. She puts her hand on the console, they kiss, and the resulting emotional energy causes the whole ship to go haywire. And so it deactivates its perception filter, which made it look like the second floor of a two-story house, when in reality it was just a one-story house with a spaceship parked on top of it. And it blinks out of existence. So, with the day saved and the TARDIS finally able to land properly, the Doctor bids farewell to the happy couple, and he and Amy ensure that the time loop is closed when he has Amy drop a message for Craig that was from earlier into his mailbox. Of course, when she goes for a pen to write down the message, she finds her ring that Rory left in the TARDIS right before he went on his final adventure with Team TARDIS. And so things finally come to a head. Amy starts to remember that she lost someone, but she can't tell who. And the thing that the Doctor knows is going to happen starts happening. Van Gogh, towards the end of his life, he paints something terrible that sends him into fits. And that painting travels to Britain in World War II, where Bracewell gives it to Churchill. And eventually it makes its way to The spaceship Britain, where River Song, on orders from Churchill, takes the painting out of a royal gallery, gets waylaid by Elizabeth X, and after picking up a time vortex manipulator, leaves the Doctor a message calling him to Britain during the Roman conquest, where she has set herself up thanks to a bit of hallucinogenic lipstick, which she also used to escape prison, and presents the painting to the Doctor. It's a stylized portrait of the TARDIS exploding. And then she relays a message about the Pandorica, which the Doctor insists is a fairy tale, and reminds Amy, who loves the fact that she's surrounded by Romans because she picked ancient Rome as one of her hobbies when she was a kid. Anyway, the Pandorica reminds Amy of Pandora's Box, another favorite story of hers. And eventually it's discovered that under Stonehenge, which is actually a transmitter, there's an underhinge, and inside the underhinge are two things: the remains of a Cyberman from Cybus Industries, and the Pandorica, which is slowly opening. It's said to contain the most powerful creature in the universe, a warrior bathed in the blood of 1 billion galaxies, and one tough hombre. And these stones, which are transmitting a message, well, it turns out it's a message from Daleks, and Cybermen, and Sontarans, and Dravens, and the Nestine Consciousness, and everybody else the Doctor has run afoul of over his centuries of traveling. Did I mention Dravens? Yeah. Anyway, he realizes that all these forces are coming to take whoever or whatever is in the Pandorica, and he's got to stop them. So he has River gather a legion of Romans to maybe try and fight off whoever's coming. He even gives a speech similar to the one he gave the Atraxi, who are back, by the way, when he told them off for nearly burning the Earth. This time he tells everyone up there that it would be smart to let someone else try and take the Pandorica before trying it themselves. Unfortunately, when the Pandorica gives off a signal as it slowly opens, the Roman soldiers end up going unconscious and then regaining consciousness, because they're not Romans, they're Autons. Seems the Nestine Consciousness infiltrated the ranks already. And when River gets sent to collect the TARDIS, because the Doctor needs some gear, when she tries to land near Stonehenge, TARDIS goes haywire and lands River back at Amy's house, where it's revealed that someone or something has taken Amy's memories of Romans and Pandora's box and concocted a trap for the Doctor. And when she tries to get to the Doctor, the trap is sprung, A voice says that silence will fall. The TARDIS flies out of control and begins blowing up. Despite River's best efforts, she fails to stop it and fails to escape. Meanwhile, all the forces who were against the Doctor have banded together to seal the Doctor in the empty Pandorica to stop him from destroying the universe, because they believe that's what he'll do. Only it's not the Doctor, it's the TARDIS. Someone took control of it and is basically breaking it. And despite the Doctor's pleas, he is sealed inside the Pandorica. Meanwhile, one of the Romans is revealed to be Rory, somehow brought back through Amy's memory. But he's also an Auton, and when the signal goes out, he starts behaving like an Auton. And despite his and Amy's best efforts, who finally remembers him, he deploys his hand gun, an actual hand that's a gun, and shoots her. And the distraught Rory Auton is the only one who bears witness to what happens when the TARDIS blows up. All the stars in the sky go out, and silence falls. Cut to the night Amelia Pond prayed to Santa to send someone to deal with the crack in her wall. And this time there's no one there, except her aunts in the next room, who are worried about Amelia, because despite there only being a sun and a moon in the sky, she draws stars, and they're worried she'll join a star cult. Apparently, Richard Dawkins is one of these cult leaders. Not sure what kind of joke that is, but it's there. Eventually, someone in a fez drops a brochure in Amy and Amelia's mailbox, suggesting she check out the Pandorica at the museum, which she does, and there are even fossilized Daleks there. And eventually, after staying hidden, she hops out of one of the displays, and when the museum gets closed, she goes to examine the Pandorica properly. And inside, it's revealed adult Amy, who says, okay, this is where it gets complicated. And complicated it is. Try to keep up. First, the Doctor appears to Rory, gives him his sonic screwdriver, and tells him to get the Doctor out of the Pandorica and put Amy in it. But first, he tests Rory, goading him into punching him, which reveals that Rory is indeed 100% back. The Nestine consciousness used too much of Amy's memory to bring Rory back. So we got one guy on our side. So then, once Amy's safely inside the Pandorica, he gives her a psychic message. And has Rory come with him to the future or past or whatever. But Rory's decided to stay behind and guard Amy's temporary prison, which the Doctor suggests against because the boredom will drive him insane. But it turns out Rory is stronger than he looks, because adult Amy, when she gets out of the Pandorica, fully alive, after Amelia touched it, she finds out that Rory protected the Pandorica all the way to the Blitz, rescuing it from a warehouse fire and then disappearing. Unfortunately, the light from the Pandorica seems to have a restorative effect on the immediate area, which includes a Dalek, which wakes up and tries to go after the two pawns. Luckily, the Doctor shows up and gets them to safety. Then he utilizes the vortex manipulator to get River out of the exploding TARDIS, because it managed to keep her safe by keeping her in a loop just before it explodes. And in fact, that explosion, happening very, very, very slowly, is what replaced the sun in the sky. Unfortunately, time is still collapsing, and everybody's got to act fast. I'll skip all the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, but needless to say, the Doctor gets injured by the crippled Dalek, who gets destroyed by River quite mercilessly. He then instructs Team TARDIS to use his body in the Pandorica as it enters the exploding TARDIS to jumpstart and reboot the universe. Big Bang 2, he calls it. And so, the Doctor goes on one last ride in the Pandorica, into the heart of what was left of the TARDIS, and boom. And thanks to Amy's memory, the crack in the universe, living with it for so long, it absorbing all of Amy's life, but also funneling the universe through Amy's mind, her memory is what jumpstarts everything. And the Doctor even gets to see a few past events. A visit to Space Florida we never got to see. Amy delivering a message to Craig. Blind Amy aboard the Byzantium, which is actually featured in that episode. If you look carefully, you can see the Doctor still has his coat, despite earlier losing it to a weeping angel. Turns out it was a different Doctor. And ultimately ending up in Amy's old home when she fell asleep waiting for him. So he puts her to bed, gives her some last messages, tells her about the old, new, borrowed and blue box, and says goodbye. And he enters the final crack in reality, which seals behind him, allowing Amy to sleep peacefully under a sky full of stars. Cut to Amy's wedding day, and it's a happy occasion. She gets her family back. She gets Rory back as a human. And during the reception, River drops off her diary, which is inexplicably blank. But it triggers a memory within Amy. Her imaginary friend and the old, new, borrowed, and blue box. and the power of her memory restores the Doctor and the TARDIS. The Doctor introduces himself and dances at their reception, and his final act this season is to give River the Vortex Manipulator back, so she can go off and be awesome, and even the writing is returned to the diary, although the Doctor didn't peek. So, Team TARDIS, united once again, flies off so the Doctor can save lives and meddle in history, and Amy and Rory can have a proper honeymoon. And that is the end of the first season of Matt Smith's era of Doctor Who. When next we meet, the wibbly wobbly jackknifes into the timey-wimey, and the result is a big ball of stuff. See what I did there? Until then, this is Mr. J signing out and reminding you never open the Pandorica unless the Doctor tells you to, and always resist the silence. Geronimo.